For Action News, I'm Anna Samovska. In today's junk pile, a poorly conceived, poorly analyzed study which strains to find a link between pesticides and autism and fails. A group of academics long devoted to finding pesticide toxicity has accomplished their goal, the goal of media attention, that is. They studied pregnant women living near a farm field and then used data dredging to determine how those mothers-to-be living closer to pesticides had a greater risk of exposing their newborns to autism. They used a questionnaire to obtain residential addresses during preconception and pregnancy periods. The addresses were then overlaid on maps with location of agricultural chemical application sites. ACTIA's Dr. Gilbert Ross says this group gets an A for marketing, but a downright F for sound science.
Well, this group at the University of California, Davis has been trying desperately to find links between pesticides used in agriculture and any adverse health outcome they can possibly come up with. They try to link pesticide exposure to adverse pregnancy outcomes by analyzing possible pesticide exposure among mothers of babies and young children that had autism spectrum disorders. And their analysis did not measure exposures to pesticides in the mothers at any time. So right away, there's something a major flaw in this whole concept. How do you measure a link between a chemical input or exposure and an outcome, theoretically, without measuring the exposure? It's basically completely impossible, but that didn't stop these researchers from trying to do it, nor did it, of course, stop the journal Environmental Health Perspectives from publishing this completely junk study. And the public relations machine of both the UC Davis group and the Environmental Health Perspective group from trumpeting and pumping up these results as though they actually meant something, which they do not. So not only were the exposure assessments done by this group, the exposure to the pesticides was estimated in the grossest possible way, but their statistical analysis was also completely flawed. When you analyze so many different inputs from so many different outcomes, you're bound to get something called statistically significant by chance. It's called data dredging. We're very familiar with this technique. Groups that cannot do the science correctly try to use this kind of computer junk science methodology of putting in different analyses and churning it out until you find something that can be called statistically significant. But even that failed because their odds ratio, that is the allegedly increased risk of autism from these different chemicals, was so slight that even if it was a well-done study, it wouldn't have been believable. And this was a poorly done study. The alleged increased risk was minimal. The exposures were absent. It's just complete junk.
For this story and all others, you can head to our website, actia.org. That's acsh.org. And while you're there, don't forget to also sign up for your daily dose of news delivered right to your inbox. For Actia, I'm Anna Samovska.